Furiosa, the latest film from George Miller, is technically the fifth installment in the Mad Max universe, and it's a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. But like Fury Road, you don't really need to have seen any of the previous films in order to appreciate this one. If you've already seen Fury Road, you'll understand this one just fine. If you haven't seen either, you could watch them in whatever order. I really don't think it would make that much of a difference. Fury Road was this movie that kind of came out of nowhere for me. It's a big, loud piece of post-apocalyptic world building with non-stop action. Kind of what was insane about it was the incredible world that George Miller constructed, but also the fact that it was essentially almost a silent film. There's very little dialogue. There's very little actual story here. You could easily mute the movie and understand basically everything that's going on. It's an action film through and through, and more than that, it's basically two extended action set pieces, these long car chases broken up by a few smaller action and story scenes that kind of work as the joints that hold the larger action set pieces together. It's incredibly loud and fast-paced, which are normally things that I wouldn't love in a film, but here the action is incredibly well constructed. The geography of what was happening, the direction of the action, what each character was trying to accomplish, and where they were positioned in space was always very well thought through and communicated on screen. They did this thing where a lot of the shots had this center framing where the most important thing that was happening was always in the center of the frame. So when they're cutting very quickly from shot to shot, your eye knew exactly where to look with each shot. And they really prioritized clarity even in the midst of all this intense action. And in addition to how well constructed the action was, it also felt very new, original, and fresh. We were seeing stuff in Fury Road that we had never seen before. Not just, flame-throwing electric guitars, but crazy war boys dangling around on poles, and insane practical stunts were being done that had never been on a cinema screen before. So that was all very fun. There was a very light amount of story in Fury Road. Basically, you had Furiosa as this main character who's trying to get back to where she came from, and you had Mad Max who is trying to help her on this journey, essentially. Really straightforward goal, and the entire movie is just about them trying to achieve that. So Furiosa is a prequel to this. We're seeing the origin story for the Furiosa character that is in Mad Max Fury Road. The Fury Road character was played by Charlize Theron. This Furiosa is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and a younger actor named Elijah Brown. And it's a pretty straightforward origin story. That's kind of the focus of the movie. It tracks Furiosa's life from childhood right up to what's happening in Mad Max Fury Road. This is a pretty different kind of movie from Fury Road. Fury Road, as I described, was this kind of non-stop series of action set pieces. And action is definitely still kind of at the forefront here, but it's certainly not to the extent that it was in Fury Road. There's much more story here, definitely a lot more dialogue, and the focus, I would say, is more on kind of fleshing out the story and the world. So if you were watching Fury Road and you were like, I want to know some of these characters' backstory, I want to know how does the relationship between Bullet Town, Gas Town, and the Citadel actually work, you're going to get to see a lot more of that kind of thing in this movie. That's not to say there isn't action, and that's not to say that action isn't well constructed, but it's shifting gears a little bit, which makes sense. Fury Road was kind of a deviation from what the Mad Max films had been in the past, and so in a way this is a little bit more of a return to form with the styling of the newer Mad Max films, I guess we could now say. But if you're expecting Fury Road 2, this is not exactly that, which is fine. I think it's great for George Miller to do something fresh, something interesting. But that's worth bearing in mind as you're going into this if you are a big fan of Fury Road. So how good is this movie? I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was fun. In a lot of ways, it's darker than Fury Road because I think you're more immersed in the story of the world. Fury Road was pretty dark, but there's moments here that are just really kind of taking the intensity and pushing it a little bit further. You're also not constantly sort of distracted from how dark and cruel this world is by the constant excitement of action. You have a little more room to breathe and kind of take in the world of Mad Max. And when you do that, you realize just how dark and nasty and messed up this place really is. The performances are great within the realm of what Mad Max Fury Road is. You know, I'm not expecting Oscar-winning dramatic performances here. The whole world is kind of this heightened, stylized comic book world, and so the acting fits that. And we have Chris Hemsworth playing a character called Dementis, and he does a great job being demented. He fits the bill for what you would expect from a character named Dementis in this world. Anya Taylor-Joy does a fine job as Furiosa. You know, I don't know that I'm going to rank her against Charlize Theron. They're kind of doing different things in each movie. Aaliyah Brown, the girl playing the young Furiosa, also does a great job here. All the supporting cast is great. There's really good casting here to kind of fill out this world with interesting characters. And also Tom Burke makes an appearance here, and he was probably my favorite performance. I felt like there was some depth and nuance there that maybe wasn't coming through in some of the other performances, but that might have just been the fact that what that character is maybe a little less cartoonish than some of the others. For what this movie is and for what it's trying to do, I think it accomplishes that very well. If you're a fan of this world or you really like the world building, this is definitely worth checking out, and it's well constructed, it's well shot, there's inventive set design, visual effects, all of that is great. Because it leans more heavily into the story though than Fury Road, the story is more important, and I found that to be just a little bit lacking. It was still clearly constructed. I understood what the characters wanted and what they were trying to accomplish, but there weren't enough layers here for me to really feel super invested in what was going on with these characters. There's a brief moment in the middle where Furiosa and Praetorian Jack, I think is how you say his name, this character played by Tom Burke, they kind of join up together. There's a longer set piece, more similar to what we got out of Fury Road, and I thought their dynamic was really interesting, and I really enjoyed that section. To cut to the chase, for me personally, if Fury Road is a great original action blockbuster, Furiosa is a good original action blockbuster. The action for me is good, but doesn't quite hit the heights of Mad Max Fury Road. And the story is good, entertaining, and engaging, but doesn't really feel like it brings me anything that I haven't seen before. I liked the nonstop action of Fury Road compared to Furiosa's more story-driven approach, which feels totally weird for me to say. I feel like usually it would be the opposite. But look, I love action when it's as well crafted and constructed and as original as Fury Road is. And for me, this is worth it, if only for some of the Fury Road-esque sequences that we get. To say it without spoiling anything, the climax of the film kind of relies on dialogue, and the dialogue in this film is just not necessarily its strongest point, and that to me kind of made the whole thing feel a little bit anticlimactic. All that said, I'm a fan of anything that is building out a world that feels unique, feels interesting, and is unlike other stuff that we're seeing in the movies, and that builds it out, obviously with a lot of care and attention. You know, the cinematography here, the art design of this film is something that you're not going to get anywhere else. And so I think if you like the Mad Max world at all, or it looks at all remotely appealing to you, it's definitely worth checking out. And this is one that is worth seeing in theaters, I believe. Watching this in theaters and watching this at home, it's not going to be the same experience. It benefits from that big, loud, kind of in your face experience. This for me is a 4 out of 5 star film. It doesn't quite hit the heights of Fury Road, but it is certainly a worthy prequel. Go check it out, or if you've seen it, let me know in the comments below what you thought. Each month I put out a video that gives a quick spoiler-free review of every movie I watched that month. For my patrons, you can sign up to become a patron and get access to those videos as well as a bunch of other stuff by going to patreon.com/thomasflight. Signing up gets you some extra reviews and also helps support my work in general. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.